Why is it that women who are doing everything right, they're disciplined, consistent, high achieving, are the ones quietly burning out? And what if the real problem isn't that they're what they're doing, but who they're being while they're doing it? Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to empower coaches and entrepreneurs to amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head on over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Debbie Heiser. Debbie is the founder of Lit Up Life, where she helps purpose-driven women reconnect with their identity, build businesses that are both financially abundant and deeply meaningful. With over 25 years of leadership experience across corporate, entrepreneurship, and academia, she blends neuroscience, nervous system regulation, and strategic execution to help women step out of burnout and into aligned, embodied leadership. She also teaches leadership at Gonzaga University, guiding the next generation in values-based decision making and self-awareness. Welcome to the show, Debbie. It's great to have you
Thank
with
you.
us.
It's an honor to have, or it's an honor to have me. It is an honor. No, I'm
It is
teasing.
an honor to have you.
It's
I
an
love
honor to
that.
be here. It's a Friday afternoon.
And it's late and we're
Yes.
old. Haven't had my
I am
coffee yet.
honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm honored to have you.
Why, thank you.
All right, let me ask you the big question. I
Okay,
know you studied for this and
let's
everything.
do it. Yep.
What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
So I have two things, and they kind of converge together. And the biggest one for me is showing up in love. And it might sound a little woo-woo, but we all come from fear or love, and fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. And the
Mhm.
reason I say that is there's so much fear around who we're supposed to be, all this like, what kind of roles am I supposed to be? And I will tell you, Jill, I run into more women, and I was one of those, that we wear so many different hats, right? Like sister, daughter, mother, boss, like founder, all of these different hats that we forget who we are on the inside, right? So the biggest piece that I think that all of this feeds into is just own it, own your shit, right? Like own it in the fact that we like own your sovereignty, own this like powerful person that you are. And every one of us, like, I don't love to say everybody has a purpose because I think it shifts, right? It evolves and different things happen. But like, find the thing that lights you up and own it. Just go out and do it. Don't be afraid. We were talking about fuckonomics earlier, right? Like, just don't, who cares, right? If you're doing what you love, and when we own who we are and we show up in love, right? Like owning who we are and showing up in a love perspective changes the world. It just does.
It makes space for other people.
Absolutely. And gives them permission.
Yes.
And I can't
Yes.
tell you, I mean, I'm from the Midwest originally, and I find this
Mhm.
to be a little more prevalent where I live now. Actually, although I live in a very conservative state, where I live is very innovative, and people really step in and take risk, and they're not adverse to risk. In the Midwest, it's pretty adverse to risk. You graduate high school, you go to college, you get a good job, you live for the weekends, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as people are excited about it and they're happy about it, right? And I mean, corporate was really good to me, don't get me wrong, but there is this, I don't know, if we owned it, we wouldn't be afraid that if we want more, that that's considered bad. I'm a firm believer that entertainment, we are surrounded by messages, and I nerd out about brain science. So, if I get to go in a little bit, you can say, time out, stop. But
Fine.
like the subconscious brain that we have only receives messages. So when it's only receiving messages and we can't deflect those messages, you watch anything. Like, I had a love-hate relationship with Disney for a long time, and they finally started to shift a few things in their messaging. You think about, and I'm aging myself here, but like Pretty Woman. And I'm not all about I am woman, hear me roar, but I don't need a man to come in on a white horse and save me, right? Like, or a white limo. And it's more about like we're not depicted even in entertainment sometimes as being like a partnership. I love some of these new movies with older women now dating younger men, right? And showing the dichotomy there of what's acceptable and what's not. And I look at entertainment, even if you look at Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I'm talking the original one, which is the best, by the way. But when the little girl that wanted something, how was she depicted? I want, right? Like entitled, just a snot, whatever. And so we've been fed this line of bullshit for so long. And I just find that once women kind of connect with that inner self, and then their spouses or their partners, all they want to know is that they haven't outgrown them and that they still love them, right? And so it's pretty simple, but we try to overcomplicate things. So yeah, that's my answer. And it's full of a whole bunch of stuff. So I'll let you take it wherever we want to go.
Yeah. I love that older women are getting better roles in the world.
Mhm.
And Kathy Bates is like my hero.
Yeah.
I think it was Fried Green Tomatoes, where she's like, I'm old and I have better insurance. And she just does what she wants to do. And you get to a point as a woman, it usually starts around 45,
Mhm.
between 45 and 50, when you're going through the next life change, which is not the end of your life,
Right,
which
right.
I really, when I was going there, it was like, okay, you're done. Golden girls, those women were all in their 40s and they were projected as though they were like old women.
Yeah,
They're not. They're just like, you become a teenager and then you
yeah,
become, childbearing age, and then you're not childbearing age anymore, but you still have a brain and ideas, and you're not a different person, but
yeah.
you're you're more in touch with who you are if you allow yourself to be. And it's
Absolutely.
okay to have opinions, and it's okay to be loud and brass. And
It totally is. But you know what I find, Jill, and this goes back to the knowing who you are, that it really kind of breaks my heart. And it's some of the why behind what I do. I talk to so many women that they're afraid to step out and be their big, bold, beautiful self because they've either been told they're too much or they've learned to survive by like not being, out there. As a matter of fact, I just had a client today that um, I've had, and she is the first female colonel in the Air Force National Guard up in Washington, and she recently retired, and she is starting a speaking business. And so I'm like, you need to tell people that you were the first woman colonel, but there's all these unspoken rules in the military that you don't stand out, right? Like that you're part of like you don't stand out. And I said, well, if you're differentiating yourself, and it's kind of the same, like how can we show that we're these unique individuals and not feel like we're doing something bad? I hate that whole like something's bad or good because there's no judgment. I mean, there is in the world, don't get me wrong,
or
but
masculization of it. I
yeah.
have a friend who is a colonel. She was a colonel in the National Guard, and I believe she was a pilot as well,
Mhm.
in the Air Force. And she's friends with my dad, who was a Neander,
Yeah.
and he's in his 90s now. She's
Yeah.
probably in her late 70s,
Mhm.
I would imagine. Um, she's she's totally like that. It's like she she doesn't she doesn't wear it proudly.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's having to apologize for being this very productive human being and having a powerful position that she
Yeah.
earned. It's not like they just
Absolutely.
hand out colonel
Right.
bars or wings or whatever you get for being a colonel.
Right.
You
They don't
had
hand
to
out the
earn
title.
it.
And Jill, I find that to be true of oh, every woman I've ever met, right? Like
Mhm.
you think about like whether people have children or not, but people that I mean, we've given birth for crying out loud. And then like you have these positions in a business or you're working for someone and you're doing all of these things and you're being part of the PTA and like multitasking and doing all of managing a household, which so even if somebody doesn't have a W-2 job, I think one of the toughest jobs in the world is to be a stay-at-home mom, right? If I hear one more person say I'm just a stay-at-home mom, I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And so it's sad to me though, because I see so many women, and that's part of what we work on is like understanding who they are so they can be proud of it and not in a way that feels uncomfortable as far as I do push the uncomfortability button, but not so that it feels so uncomfortable that it's like, I'm the only one that is this way, but more so of, yeah, I worked hard at this and I know a lot from doing this and I'm here and it's still being humble, but not to the point of, not letting people know. I mean, because I feel like if you're in business, because I love sales, and if you're in business and someone talks to you about something and you have the ability to help them, if you don't at least say something to them, like I'll say to somebody, I'm like, well, that's kind of what I do. You want to talk about that? Then I'm giving them the middle finger, right? If I don't say something to them. So I just find
Mhm.
women like that's a good example. And I'm glad that you brought up the one too of what happens in the military, but that happens across the board.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm seeing
Women,
it in men too, more and more. Yeah.
yeah, they, we just have reached a point where it's like you have to be less so
Yeah.
that you offend somebody. And if you have an opinion, it pushes you into a category versus just allowing you to have an opinion about something. Just because you feel some way about some topic doesn't mean always or never in
Yeah.
other categories. It just, if we could just like, be curious, let
Yeah.
people have opinions about things and not, you know, make it define who they are as good or bad,
Yeah.
because depending on your perspective, that's like what happens to people.
Yeah, and I just spent a weekend with this, I was telling you this great group of women down in Florida. One of the
Okay.
coaches that I've hired in the past, Andrea Franco, pulls together some amazing women. And the common theme that I heard amongst all of these women that were speaking, that did roundtables, that are, making multiple eight figures, and some of them nine-figure businesses. And it's not all about the money, but I'm here to tell you part of what I do is help people with financial freedom because there is some freedom that definitely comes with that. And
Mhm.
listening to them, the common thread is that they step out and they stand for something. And it's not that, okay, if I stand for this, that makes you wrong. It's, hey, this is my journey. This is what worked for me. And you might resonate with this. And if you do, jump on board. If you don't, that's okay. Go find somebody else that you resonate with, right? Like that's the common message. And it's so even opposite of the right and wrong piece of it. But those people that stand up and they say, this is my story and this is what happened to me and here's how I overcame some of this, or here's how I started a business after being in corporate for 20 years, scared to death that I wasn't going to be able to support myself, or whatever it is, like opinion or not, it just, I found that to be really interesting that that was the common theme. And I mean, I was sitting in a room that if you looked at the P&L of that entire room, how sometimes people add up the age of everybody for the wisdom. If you added that up, I don't even want to attempt to know how much money was sitting in that room. And I just think, wow, these are women that step out and really are being who they are at the best. And I find it such a travesty that we don't step into that we just want to meld into the background, right? And honestly, like the spotlight's not for everybody. The stepping out and saying what you are isn't for everybody. But man, I think about the amount of people that don't allow themselves to do that. And I think, oh, the world would be such a different place.
The world needs those people right
Yeah.
now. It's why I do what I do. It's just I
Yeah.
want to shine a flashlight or a spotlight on all of the people out there stepping up,
Yeah.
just willing to say, hey, I found a way. I'm not for everybody, but for those of you who hear my voice,
Right.
you're not alone. So
Yeah.
long we went along thinking we were the only one.
Yeah.
I'm the only weirdo out there that, were
Yeah. I want people to
finishing.
love my kind of crazy. Those people that love my kind of crazy are the ones that will like hop on the bus. Those that don't, go find somebody else that you love their type of crazy, right? And it's funny that you say that because I think that's where, like as I look at men and women, and particularly women that I work with, it's like if we not only stepped into that, but owned it in a way, and I think you said it eloquently around there's not judgment if you choose not to believe what I believe, right? It just means that we're not in each other's tribe, and that's okay. And go find the tribe that works for you. But I find so much right now, there's so much polarization, and I'm not talking politics, just in general, this idea of
Mhm.
polarization versus what do we have in common? And then if we don't have things in common, you don't have to be hateful about it. Just go find your tribe.
And your tribe doesn't have to be like in lockstep with you for
No,
everything that
absolutely.
you believe. They can it's what makes life interesting. Like I'll tell you a
Absolutely.
secret. Okay, it's not a very big secret, but I believe that the world is a snow globe.
Oh, yeah.
Makes absolutely no difference to anybody in the world how I perceive the space that I inhabit. It makes life easier for me because it makes things make sense for me.
Right.
And I don't care if you think that we're a ball spinning through space. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But not everybody has to believe that in order to be my friend or to be somebody that I respect.
Absolutely. And Jill, I don't know, how do you feel about this, but I feel like I believe in abundance and I believe currency is a part of that abundance. But there are so many other ways that you can experience abundance. And because people are in scarcity, then they don't see this ability to be abundant in different ways. And so, like a lot of people that I work with, they're tied up in money and they get so like, I'm so afraid, and blah, 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 that opening them up. And when they see abundance in, like, I drive across a 1.5 mile long bridge every day and I see eagles, wild swans, mountains, like, it's my abundance filler. And I'm just like, oh, I live in an abundant universe, right? And the more we vibrate at that abundance level, then more abundance comes into us. And as we receive more abundance, we start to kind of calm down. Like I remember when I left corporate after 20 years, it took my body a couple of years to like unwind from that. And as if we unwind from that, then we start to be open to receive. Because I tell people, if you think you have a money problem, it's not a money problem, it's a receiving problem. Because if I'm deflecting people in my and relationships, and if I'm deflecting money, if I'm deflecting abundance, like I close it up. And then I really don't know who I am because all I am is a little bitchy woman running around, right? Like, because you're not happy.
Complaining about everything, and then more
Absolutely.
stuff bad comes.
Yeah, yeah, because we're vibrating at that vibration. Yeah, yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it's like the more you pay attention to something, the more it shows up in your life.
Absolutely. And Jill, the other thing too that I find as you say that, I do a lot of work in what's called transactional analysis,
Mhm.
where you have like a committee in your head and you have this little girl or little boy, depending on, what you associate with, and that's your
Mhm.
creativity and your playfulness. You have the adolescent, which most of us are in our adolescence, but that's the resiliency, that's also the defiant behavior, right? And then we
Mhm.
have the critical parent, and that's the one that criticizes, and the adolescent stands in the way, which is why we feel burnout a lot, right? We were talking about earlier, like how we slowly burn out and we're in that adolescent, and many times because we don't trust ourselves. And so that mature adult is someone that trusts themselves. And I hear so many women say, oh, I'm my worst critic, which means they're in their critical parent a lot and beating themselves up. Like, and I look at people as clients and I'll say to them, would you talk to your 5-year-old child this way? Well, then stop talking to yourself that way, right? Like, the brain's job is to predict and protect. So tell that critical parent to, thanks for your advice, but I need for you to sit down, and then have your mature adult take over. But I don't know, Jill, if you run into this, but I find a lot that part of that uncovering who you are and owning your sovereignty comes down to they've lost trust, whether it be, I was married for 30 years and I was super small with my ex-husband, and I didn't trust my own feelings. I didn't trust myself to make decisions, even though I was the breadwinner and the one, basically running the household, all these stories that we implement. But trust is another big, like if I had to answer that very first question, trust is another big piece of owning who you are and trusting that. And honestly, I mean, I grew up in the church and I was a youth pastor while I worked at Citibank. But I think right now, and this might be a little controversial, I didn't ask you if I could talk about this, but I feel like there's a whole lot of messages in the church right now, and even in the past decade, that just mess with people's minds. I find more clients that come to me that, and I'm not all against church, don't get me wrong, but like that come to me that are so confused. And it's like the patriarchy of what happened years and years and years ago, that you can't make decisions on your own, similar to what corporate does, right? Like you drink the red Kool-Aid of I don't know who I am and what I can do. And I'm just conforming, like we were talking about the military, like conforming into what's there. So man, you got me on a roll.
I think
Feel like I'm preaching.
good. You're good. I actually deconverted, been probably 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
I was deep in. I drank Kool-Aid all the way down to the dregs. And then I came to realize something about religion in general. And it really changed my life, but there was actual lifting of the weight
Yeah.
of trying to conform so God would love me,
Yeah.
which is what church is all about. Is
And
you
it's so
have
diametrically opposite of what God and Christ, it's so opposite of what it's about.
it is. And
Yeah.
so many people are trapped in that. I I know that it's supposed to be free, but there's still hell over here, and I don't want to go to hell.
Hmm.
And you know, at some point you can just like let go of that and say, I don't believe hell exists.
Yeah.
And you're totally free to do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's one of those things, again, it just doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. And Jill, but it wraps people up. I mean, I will tell you, I was married for 30 years. We separated and my son's 33 now. We separated when my son was 5. And I probably should have divorced him then, in all honesty. It would have been better for probably both of us, right? And but I stayed in it, and a big piece of why I stayed in it was not only my son, but also like this idea of my faith and like that it was wrong. And I'm like, I don't know. I think we just put way too many boxes on faith, I think on spirituality. I mean, honestly, like some of my friends, and they might be listening to this, like they'd probably freak out if they knew I believed in multiple lives and that I believe in karma and like some of these things, right? And I have a very strong faith base. So it's so interesting to me how it kind of goes back to what we were talking about how this like conformity wants to happen when in fact, like I think about you and you standing out as the coach's alchemist, and like we were all made to like be somebody in this world. And I think too, we focus so much on the doing part and taking action. I mean, we're given accolades for it, we're given promotions and, all sorts of things that we forget who we're being. And that's where people forget who they are a lot.
The whole
Yeah.
human being thing, as
Right.
opposed to a human doing thing.
Yeah. And I find it so important. Like I hike a lot and I try to get out in nature because I think you have to slow down in order to speed up. I teach foresight, and in order to kind of see and know what's coming, you have to slow down for a minute and take a look. And I mean, I love my phone, but one of the things that I heard this weekend that was a little alarming is it used to be 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention. It's now 1 second. And that most of us can't be without our phones. Like it's almost like an addiction, right? Like we take it with us everywhere we go. And I thought, wow, I kind of fall into that. I might need to start setting it down a little. Yeah.
I walk with my husband every day,
Oh,
and we don't
nice.
take our phones.
Good
My
for you.
husband still is really bad about his phone. I was gone for 3 months, and I used to wait for him to call me, or I would have specific times when I would call him so he would know that he had to be near his phone because I was calling. It used to be in the old days, you just called the house and the phone would ring and you wait 10 rings. And if it didn't answer or there was no answering machine, tried again later.
Yeah.
But now we want people to be available when we expect it.
Absolutely. And then that makes everything urgent and necessary, which then screws up our nervous systems. And we wonder why there's so much illness now and why people are struggling and why suicide rates are so high. I mean, when you live in that, I call it the Instapot world, right? Like when you live in that much pressure all the time, it's just like people don't know how to regulate their nervous systems. You see a lot of that coming out right now, which is important. And it's important to take a breath, right? And breathe and do those things. And I can get super excited and talk really fast, but it's like it's important for us to just stop for a moment. We need oxygen.
We need oxygen, we
Yeah,
need to ground, we need to walk around outside or sit outside at the park and just be,
yeah,
not on your phone, just, experiencing life.
yeah,
We 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 get into these situations where we forget how to just appreciate life.
yeah.
You grow a garden, spend some time
So true.
outside, walk your dog. Just
So true.
just allow yourself to have time. And it's really hard. I think it's more women who are very driven,
Hmm.
who come from a working background, a corporate background, that are used to have um uh, other people put boundaries on them, and
Yeah,
the pressure in those corporations for you to exceed your boundaries
yeah,
without pay, usually for women.
yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I would have somebody come and drop something on my desk at 4:45
yeah,
and expect it to get done, 3-hour project, and expect it to get done that day.
yeah.
It's like, where the fuck were you all day
Right.
when I was waiting for something to do? That
So
that's
true.
just
And I know for
crazy.
me, I mean, corporate was really good to me, and I really learned a lot from, and I loved the people that, for the most part, everyone that I worked with. Um, but I don't think I could go back to work for anybody. Like now that I've been
And
an
I'm unemployable.
entrepreneur, yeah, I'm completely unemployable. I shouldn't say that very loud, but I am completely
It's
unemployable.
true.
Oh, totally.
You just have to own who you are and where you are in life. And
Yeah,
I struggle with people telling me things, and it's like, yeah, no.
yeah,
And my daughter, I have two daughters and three sons, but my youngest daughter, she works at various factories. They all of my kids have been employed since they were like 16,
yeah.
doing various things. And so she come and tells me stories about things that go on where she's working, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not right.
Yeah.
It
Well,
didn't
and
work because I would
unfortunately,
just be like, you guys have it all wrong.
yeah, and unfortunately, I haven't been on this soapbox for a little while, but I feel like we have a self-worth epidemic in this world, right? Because if people stepped in and owned their sovereignty and owned who they were and loved who they were, that's part of the love piece I was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd have some of the problems that we have today. I certainly think we'd have less people murdering each other and like doing these atrocities to each other because I think there's so many hurting people and hurt people hurt people.
And less drugs and
Yeah. Oh
alcohol
yeah.
problems they're so rampant because people just have no outlet, and they're not trained or taught how to regulate their nervous system in a way that doesn't involve um altering their brain,
Right. Yeah,
slowing
that could
down
be
their
sugar,
bloodstream.
caffeine, like all of that too. Yeah, numbing
All
out
the
to Netflix. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I kind of am too. So,
I binge
okay.
watch trash TV.
Okay, what's a trash TV show you watch?
Been watching Scandal lately, but I did watch Teen Wolf.
You watch what?
Teen Wolf.
Oh, that's funny. That's an oldie. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love that series on Netflix, Love is Blind. I just think it's a really interesting, like, psychology experiment. So, yeah. Trash. Okay, here we are, trash TV at its finest.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just let your brain go someplace else and have some
Oh,
candy for a while.
completely. You know, I
But
had a goal
it's
last year to read fiction because
mhm.
I read a lot and I read mostly nonfiction. And I read an article that talked about how the only like fiction is the only thing that works both sides of your brain at the same time when you read. So I thought, I'm going to read fiction. And I devoured some of these books. I'm like, I forgot how much fun it was to read some of these fiction books. So, yeah.
Have you read Where the Crawdads Sing?
I have, and actually the woman that wrote it lived just north of us in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. So, yeah. Yeah, that was a good
That
one.
was a great book. That's one of the better books I think I've read, and I read a lot. I grew up without a television, and like anything under 300 pages was considered a commercial for my
Oh,
sisters and
that's
I.
cute. Yeah. Have you read any Kristen Hanna? Two of my very favorite books. One is called The Nightingale,
Hmm.
and it's about two sisters in Nazi-occupied France.
Hmm.
And I'm the type of person I see patterns. And so I can't typically read too many of the same author because I figure out their cadence and their patterns and then I figure it out. And
Yeah.
even like series on HBO or Netflix that are like 6 episodes, you know, by episode 3 or 4, I've got it figured out of who did what, right? So,
Hmm.
which is a blessing and also a curse. She kept me guessing through, and I was blown away at the end. And then the other one of hers that I think is just like right up there with the Nightingale is called The Women. And it's about women in the Vietnam War and how many people, even to this day, that were in Vietnam will say there weren't women in Vietnam. And there were. A lot of them were in the medical field, but it's a really good, yeah, both of them are. She's pretty good, but you
What
do
name?
kind of figure out her pattern.
Name?
Kristen Hanna. It's Kristen, I think, and then Hannah, Hannah.
Okay, I'll definitely look her
But the
up and see.
Nightingale is definitely, I mean, they're thicker, right? But so it
Yeah,
won't be a commercial for you, but and most of the libraries have them because they've been out for a while. But yeah,
I'll go look for them. I love a good book. I don't read as much as I should
yeah.
because I get into a book and it's just like I'll just have to sit down and mow right through it, and so I lose a whole weekend.
I know I got hooked on these like fantasy sci-fi ones last year, the Sarah Moss, the
Uh,
Glass Thorn of whatever, and it was about this assassin who didn't realize that she was actually this, okay, spoiler alert, that she's actually like this really powerful queen and she didn't realize it and like
mhm.
her and there's like 8 or 9 of them and these books are like 900 pages, you know, they're not small books and same thing. It'd be 3 in the morning. I'm like, I have to go to bed. Like, no, I have to get to the end of this chapter. Yeah.
You have an argument with yourself. I stayed up and read a book one time. Um, it was I can't remember the name of it, but it was a modernish tale of Jacob and Leah and Rachel. And that takes place in Scotland. And I just like had to read the end of this.
Mhm.
So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I finally get to the end and I realize at that point it's a trilogy.
Oh gosh. Oh, brother. And then you were
What's
hooked.
called.
And then you had to read
Well,
the
yeah,
other two.
I had to read the other two
Yep.
because, you can't just stop there, even though you know how the story goes because,
Yeah.
biblical.
Yep. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
I bought
Debbie.
another
So
one of hers.
how do you help people? You have coaching, but how does all of that look?
Yeah, so when you say how does that look, do you mean kind of like what are my offerings? Who do,
Groups, do
yeah.
one-on-one.
Thank you. Um, so to start out with, it's just easy to go out to, and I think we've got it in the show notes for them, that you can join my Build Her group. We do have some monthly training and we have a monthly kind of networking and teaching call that we do. And then people can share different things within the group. And then like through that, you can learn more, but I offer up private coaching. I do a women's mastermind where we actually take 2 trips and it's a year-long program. And we went to Mexico in February. We're getting ready to go to Greece in September. And yeah, and then I offer up some other, like I love doing workshops. So like at the end of the spring, which I know this will be later in the summer, I'm doing one really about the marketing arc. And then in October, I always have a women's retreat here in Sandpoint called Cast Your Vision. And that's an ability for people to slow down and really kind of figure out who I am and where do I want to go. What's kind of this next chapter, or I have a successful business, but I'm burnt out and I'm tired of it. How can I change what I'm doing? That type of thing. So, and I just love working with people, right? I have some people that are business people in corporate, and I help them to move up the ladder. But the best place to go is either my podcast, The Lit Up Life with Debbie Heiser, or the Build Her groups. So, yeah, thank you for
People
asking.
find that at the lit up life.com.
Thelituplife.com, yes. And then if you go backslash build her, it will take you to that. But you can also under the programs and it'll say like communities it will share with you. Because I also have a couple of paid communities that include content and other things. So yeah, some
Excellent.
alchemist work there with like clearings and tarot cards and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah.
As I hold my,
Oh yeah.
no, it's a talisman. I
Yeah.
learned yesterday that there's a difference between amulets and talisman. So,
Oh, please share.
well, amulets push things away, let things go. The talismans pull things towards you.
Okay.
But
Interesting. Well, I have a whole jar right back here for those on video full of crystals, and you can tell I like peacock things. So, yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Awesome.
The peacock eye in the background.
It has my favorite quote, you just can't see it, by Helen Keller that says, "Life is an adventure or nothing at all." So, yeah.
I like that a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Debbie. This has been
Okay.
great.
Thank you. It's been so much fun, and I so appreciate you even putting up a little bit with my brain being tired today. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
worked great.
it
You
has.
can learn more about Debbie and join her free Build Her community on Facebook for female business owners and leaders that are tired of the hustle culture and want to build true connection and make more money and impact without stress by visiting thelituplife.com/build her. And we'll be sure and put that link in the description below. Thank you for joining us today. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.